What it do, snackers, snackettes, and snack X's? It's your boy Gage. Sin is in the building.
Yes,
Jokes is
sir.
on the way. You
What up,
are
Doc?
now tuned in to Loading Snacks Weekly, where we get together once a week and we talk about the things that are happening in pop culture. And
Today,
today we have a lot to discuss. What up, Doctor Who? We are going to do some follow up on Extra Life. We're going to talk about what in the world is happening in the MCU. We're going to talk about Invincible. There's a lot. There's a lot on the docket. Sen, how you feeling?
I'm good. A lot better. I would say that.
Okay.
Tired, but a lot better.
I know yesterday you were having, you was in
Yeah.
the blues a little bit. So what
Yes,
up, Zay?
yes.
Just thought I'd check
Appreciate it.
now.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we jump too deep into the news of the week and like the past week or so, I just want to kind of reiterate our feelings about this very successful weekend that we just had with Extra Life. We managed to cap our goal of $3,000. We ended up actually well above that. Let me give you the final, because people were actually putting in. We were still getting donations after the fact. So I'm gonna refresh this just to double check it and make sure I give you up to date numbers. But while I'm doing that, Sin, man, just talk about the experience this weekend, how you feel about everything, and
Uh, I feel good about it. Of course, always wish I could have pulled in some more money, but it is what it is. And it's still open to the end of the year, so who knows? Donations can still come
oh
in.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
is what it is. Cool, but it was a great time, honestly. Like having like Mari and Zaina and Marcus and other Marcus, like people out there streaming on their own for the cause and jumping on the team, pulling their own numbers and stuff. Like it felt really good trying new stuff this year, like having K DJing on his thing and stuff like that. Like so we put out there, we're trying some new things, and I enjoyed what we accomplished. Saying we'll tweak stuff, for next year when the time comes around and so forth. Uh, Party Animals might have been my favorite, even though I was terrible in that game, but it was absolute blast to play with everybody we had in there. That was a lot of fun. But I feel good about it overall, man. To tell you the truth.
I agree. I don't know if I will ever play Party Animals again, unless it is something like this. Um, what up, K Dizzle?
What up? What up?
Kai, what's up? Yeah, the final numbers as they sit currently, because I actually had somebody stop me today, reached out to me today and said that they were trying to donate, but they were having difficulty. Like every time they tried to donate, it kept telling them that there was some sort of an issue.
My boss had that.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
so I know that they're not the only person that had that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I ended up having to do with them is, so I still have, there will be more money coming in, because now I have people who are like, well, I'll just cash app it to you and you can put it in. So
Right.
there will be more money coming in. Currently, though, where we sit on a goal of $3,000, we raised $3,230, which is again incredible.
That last minute
You
run
know,
was insane. That last
very much so.
that last play of Mass
No,
Effect
listen.
3, and then the news comes in that we hit the goal.
Let's talk about Cuddy for a second.
Shout out to Cuddy. Shout out to Cuddy
Real
for
talk.
real.
Because Cuddy, again, Cuddy donates every year. Cuddy loves to be the person to help push us over the top when there's a particular, like, you got a milestone you're ready to hit. Cuddy loves to help make that happen. But not only that, look, there have been years when when we used to relax, Zana, when we used to all get together physically in one space, like we'd get together here to play. Cuddy and that was like we're doing 24 hours straight through. Cuddy shows up with just a bunch of energy drinks. You know what I mean? Just like when you talk about day one support and just kind of like being there in ways that are bigger than just being a Patreon member or whatever, because we have known each other for so long. He is really a really staunch supporter of what we do. He did show up. He did show up the other day. Like he did. And relax, Candace. And it y'all are ruining things.
Go ahead.
And he was like, "Oh, here it is, buddy. Let me slap this at you, Sin. Let me slap this at you, Jokes. Oh, by the way, we got to get so and so over this." Like he just, again, he'll dump that money, man, and I really appreciate it. And so yeah, he put me over the $1,000. I mean, and my goal was 1,500, and I still like to hit that, but for getting over $1,000, I did. I'm gonna, as is being alluded to in the comments. And as Sin is so happy to put up, and like when Sin crosses the threshold for getting his hair, for getting that Superman cutting his hair, I'm gonna be all over it too.
I'm not mad at him right now. My boss called me this morning, like, when I come in the office tomorrow, am I gonna see something different with your hair? I was like, nah, didn't hit the goal, but I broke it down to her.
It's doable. It's doable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I will be doing the dance. I'm not gonna do it here. Like I don't have that kind of space right here. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna post it. So it's one thing to just do it. I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna go up on my Instagram as a reel, so it can live forever. Because that's what it is. So it'll be up by Friday. I'll get it done. It'll be posted Friday, like sometime like midday Friday, probably. Give me a second. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, I had a really good time. I do think that doing it over 3 days is, I appreciate your approval, Zaina, I guess. I think doing it over 3 days really is, like, for us, the sweet spot. Like, it is way better than trying to just do it for 24 hours straight. I think it allows many more people to watch. It allows a lot more people to participate if they want to. I would really love to get more people to participate, and that's really where my goal is for next year, is getting more people on the team. Because again, just the more people you have on the team, just the more money you can raise. It just kind of is how it is. And so I really want to do some early prep work. Even earlier, we talked about it much earlier this year than we normally do. But there are a lot of people who just do straight board games, and stuff like that, tabletop games, and whatever, and stream that kind of stuff. So it does not have to be video games. You do not have to have the newest or the latest consoles in order to participate, or some crazy PC rig in order to participate. I went back and I really, this is the 15th anniversary of Extra Life. It is the 9th year that I participated personally. And so next year being the 10-year anniversary of us doing Extra Life, I think we push it. You know what I mean? Like, we really go. So like, yeah. So just look for it to be a little heavier, and there to be some more stuff. And I do think we need to probably be looking at doing some D&D and some other stuff, man. Like I'm in my head right now, there's an Uno tournament, there's a spades tournament, there are things that are happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, it's gonna get real. You know what I mean? But there are just things that I want to do throughout the year to kind of lead into that. And so we'll be making some connections and talking to some people and just kind of seeing, what else we can do. And I didn't really make good use of them this year, but we have some really good connections to some people who are connected to the esports scene and so forth. One of which we just really met at. Look at you already. You like, yep. Met this year. Thank you, Nana. Who are traveling and doing esports announcing and things of that nature. So we have some people for sure. Last year's D&D was definitely C. Boy, yeah, Heather, Uno and spades. Yes, we want fights, especially that new Uno. I get my hands on that new Uno with the
look,
draw 10s.
That's disrespectful. That's just disrespectful.
But I mean, isn't that really what it's all about?
Hey, you
But
talking about
I do kind of want to do like I will just tell you now that in my head, and you know how it works in, like I'm already like on a Saturday, we'll do like a regular, it'll be like a 10 to 6 kind of thing. But then we'll come back and do like a midnight run. We'll do like an 11 to like 2, where it's nothing but that kind of stuff, spades and like Uno, and just kind of, yeah, they got to draw 10 in that joint in the new Uno. It's like sold out everywhere. Like you can't get it. Yeah, I mean, that is a fight, but it's not like we ain't play stacking anyway, and you couldn't end up drawing 10. But yeah, they have, it's real. It's real out there. So yeah, I would kind of love to do sort of like a midnight run where we just pop back in. You know what I mean? And especially because we get that extra hour. So maybe we do like a 3-hour joint.
That messed me up over the weekend.
It's from like 12 to 2. Did you forget about it? You forgot about it?
Completely forgot about it.
Oh,
until it was over on Sunday, and I got up to go get my food. Like, bet I'm driving. I just look at the clock, and it said like 7. Someone's like, "Am I just tripping?" That just
yes,
a minute ago.
Nah, yes, you are. Although they're talking about not having daylight savings anymore.
Yeah,
and so maybe next year it won't happen. We'll see. But again, I'm thinking about new ways already for us to achieve more next year. So keep that in mind. I do want to thank again everybody who donated, and you'll be getting electronic. You should, from everybody, get like the website is really good about giving you the opportunity to go in and just kind of thank people. So you should get electronic thanks. I know people are starting to get things mailed out and stuff like that. I know Zaina sent Google forms to people who specifically requested like the charms that she's making for them, that kind of stuff. So I saw that she posted, she knocked her push-ups out. I don't know if y'all saw, but Frosty did post to her Instagram her Amazon order for all of her Barbie cosplay. I'm trying to tell you, City Comic Con gonna be a thing. It's gonna be on. So yeah, so the Piper's getting paid, and that's how it goes. So thank you again to everybody who participated, for everybody who donated, and honestly to everybody who watched, because even if you don't do those things, she's got new crochet ideas for next year. I'm with it. Again, having you all in the comments, even if you're not donating, even like having you all in the comments to just kind of keep talking with us, and so that we know that you're there and so forth, still does mean a lot, right? It kind of is one of those things that helps keep us going. So your participation in whatever way you participated, we are thankful for it. So I just want to say that. Right on time. I was kind of trying to wing it until you jumped in, bro. Well done, man. Joe, do you have a favorite memory from Extra Life this weekend?
Playing party animals.
Yeah, you and that pumpkin, bro. Freaking nuisance.
I was like you know what though? I was very distracted during party animals. Like I was trying to do other stuff at the same time.
Well, he became an assassin with that pumpkin.
But outside of that though, I think it's just it's one of those same things that we do every year, just having our community in there with us as we're playing and just interacting, like shenanigans, doing things for a good cause. Like it feels good the whole way through. So definitely I think just having everybody in there with us as we're trying to, as much as we're not streaming directly for 24 hours, certain things do still kick in, like we've been gaming for 24 hours straight regardless.
Oh, for sure. For sure. We definitely get a little out of control. I'm just glad we managed to hold on for as long as we did. Again, I think we need to upgrade some things and maybe make a few changes going into next year. But we'll tackle that. I was a little disappointed with the milestones. Like the Warhead soda wasn't really that.
None of them hit the way that
didn't really hit hard. Yeah. And the sodas didn't really hit all that hard. And
I still got the 2 spiciest ones. So I mean, hey, the donation portals don't close, so you keep donating.
I still have a blue cheese sitting in there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are nasty.
Hey, it's for the kids.
Okay, so on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk for a brief second about Invincible season 2, episode 1. Now, Sin, you and I talked yesterday briefly about the fact that you finally went back and watched Adam Eve, which came out in like, I want to say June or July. And I tried to get you to watch that.
You did. And I had to
so before yo, what up, Domingo? My man showed up, spending that good evening. On Twitch over the weekend. Sin, give me your feelings on Adam Eve before I say anything about episode 1 of season 2.
Monday, I was down and out after Extra Life. You know what I mean? Like, stomach wasn't feeling that weight. I'm just laying on the couch. Let me finally put on Adam Eve since the beginning of Invincible season 2 has started. Let me just go ahead and knock this out. Cool. I'm watching it. I'm enjoying it. I'm digging the storyline, all that kind of stuff. It's wild and crazy, and she's super OP. But they get to this scene where she's going up against her brothers or whatever, if you will, on this highway. I do not feel good. And I sat up. Like, they started getting, I was like, man, stop playing, dog. What? I cannot wait to talk to you last time. Like, dog, whoever did that sequence needs a raise, bro. That whole team, it was incredible from start to finish. Like, they went all in with that. And like, I definitely look at her in a different light now. She's a complete monster.
A beast. She's a cold beast.
She's OP, straight up OP. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
You haven't watched.
I haven't watched
Adam Eve.
Nope, I gotta watch Adam Eve. So
oh my gosh, yeah, bro. Thing. Yeah, it does not disappoint.
Good.
That joint is a truth maker. Like, it's the truth, bro. So let me just say that I recommend, if you saw Invincible, first of all, if you haven't seen season 1 of Invincible, fix your life.
Treat yourself.
Jeez.
Fix your life.
Prepare yourself.
I will say this. Let me just. It's over the top. It is very violent. It is very violent. So, like, if you like The Boys,
there you go.
There's no reason why you shouldn't like Invincible. Matter of fact, I think you should like Invincible more than The Boys, but that's
another subject, another topic.
That's me just pushing the envelope. But if you have not seen the first season of Invincible, I highly recommend it, because while the violence is over the top, and a lot of what Invincible is a satire on, not unlike The Boys, is a satire on superheroes and the superhero tropes. Like, basically all of the characters are fake versions of superheroes you already know from other universes, from Marvel, from DC, from whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's a fake Justice League. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and it's not even super secret that that's what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a fake Wonder Woman. Her name is War Woman. Like, it's just like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Adam Eve, who is a character who is introduced to you in that first season, her special, which is like, it's a bit over an hour, if I recall correctly. Like, it's not a short. It's basically like a movie / teaser intro into season 2. It's ridiculous, and like, when you see what happens in the first season, and then you see her movie, you really are like, oh, she can beat everybody. She's better than everybody.
Yeah,
she could be.
She's ridiculous. She's
bro, ridiculous. Like, I'm gonna just tell you right now, if I'm putting a squad together, she's on first.
Pick. She's broken. Yeah,
she's my first pick, bro. She's OP.
Yeah.
But at the heart of it, there's a really, really solid story about family, about learning who you are, loving who you are. Stop jokes. We don't. And there's a really good underlying story there. That is just happening in the midst of all the violence.
Mm-hmm.
So the first episode of the second season came out last week. And I'm just going to tell you now that just the way it starts, you like, what is going on? What is going on? And then they do the perfect thing that is the one thing everybody seems to understand right now, which is the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just like, oh, all right. When the first episode ends, they do that thing with Invincible. So Invincible has this thing where, like, when you think the episode is over,
mm-hmm.
another scene comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird, slightly jarring, and very enjoyable because I'm never ready for it to end when it ends. Like, the way this show is written and animated, I'm never ready for it to be over.
Mm-hmm.
And they do this thing where, like, all right, we're done. Like the regular tropes of, like, a TV episode is done, they fade to black, and then it comes back, and they just kind of keep going. And that's always like a weird kind of teaser / cliffhanger, and it's freaking brilliant. It's
I love
brilliant.
those. I see that in a few good animes. ReZero does a master class in just that thing right there. A master class with that.
It's so well done. I am on pins and needles waiting for episode 2. And as far as I know, from what I've seen, what they're doing is the same thing they did with the last season, which is like it's 8 episodes, but they do 4 and then they take a break and then they do another 4. So there will be a spoiler, boys, but we're going to wait until all 4 episodes are out. We're going to discuss all 4, make some predictions, and then we'll wait for the second set and then we'll make some predictions about that.
Dig it.
I highly recommend you get on this Invincible train. Like, it's just, voice acting is great, the animation is great, the writing is great, the timing, the comedic timing, the action, like every single piece of this. What this show is basically what I want every animated show to be like. It's almost perfect, which is all I want. I don't want perfect. I want almost perfect. Because if it was perfect, I wouldn't want more. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, if they just did, you know what I'm saying?
Done, cool. Don't touch it again.
It's so well done. Robert Kirkman, I'm gonna keep it a buck, man. I think Invincible is better than The Walking Dead. I think The Invincible is his best work. That's where I'm at. But we'll see how that goes. Highly recommend it. You should do it. Now, today is November 7th. And what that means, if you live in the world we live in, is that it's N7 day.
N7 day.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we gotta watch this.
That jacket fire.
Now look.
A little bit of goosey.
Super teaser.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, Zen.
Super
I
teaser.
mean, that's a pretty incredible 5 seconds there, bro.
Hey, nah, bro.
Where you at?
He's like, he's like, Bruh, this ain't no remake.
Yeah, it's not a remake.
This ain't a remake.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Oh, this is 5. Like this is so they put out a bunch of teasers today. There's a bunch of tweets, a lot of stuff coming out. There's a new poster too. I guess I should show y'all the poster. But they basically they put out a bunch of very cryptic tweets that like led to like little websites that had like a little countdown and stuff like that. So a couple of things. One pointed to something called like Epsilon, which Epsilon is the 5th letter of the Greek alphabet. So a lot of people are like, oh, so this is clearly Mass Effect 5. The other thing about Epsilon is that if you go back and you look at the history of Mass Effect, Epsilon was one of the original names that they had for Mass Effect. It was like the Epsilon something, or whatever. So that was like a big deal. For a lot of people, they were like, oh, they're going back to whatever. So right now, there's a lot of people who are like, it looks to me like they're pushing for either Liara or Aria, as maybe the main protagonist. I'm not either. There's a lot of people who are pointing towards them bringing back Shepard again somehow, which again I think will be weird, but for some reason I'm like willing to accept that. But I do think, let me get this poster up for y'all. Give me a second. I had to find it. Here we go. So what I know is they need to make sure that there's a multiplayer.
Bring that multiplayer back.
Please.
Oh man. So hold on. It didn't. I don't know why I did it that way. This is all right. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix that. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I know why. Hold on. Because I didn't grab the PNG. That's why. But yeah, I mean, jokes. I mean, what do they have to do? The last Mass Effect, Andromeda, didn't go over so well. I didn't hate it, but I didn't feel like I needed to complete it. Does that?
I think that's the way.
Make sense?
I've never finished it. Like, and I kind of want to do it. Yeah, I've never finished Andromeda, but I want to go back and do it just because, like, I really enjoyed the Mass Effect series, and I feel like, unfortunately, Andromeda, it had to come after 1, 2, and 3, and kind of tried to, I guess, I don't know if reinvent necessarily is the word to use, but they went and tried to redo some things, and necessarily didn't come over well with everybody. But I do want to go back and finish it. Probably will do that.
What about you, Sin? Where are you on?
I'm hyped for this. I'm hyped for Mass Effect 5. Wasn't a big fan of Andromeda. The first three of my favorite games of all time.
Same here.
I've literally been recently thinking about finally going back and playing the remastered. Like,
oh, you hadn't gone back and done that yet?
I played the beginning. Like, that's it. I made it to the Citadel, ran around, and like, okay, like it just went back to playing something else. But I've been having that itch again, so might be the time to go do another run of that. But I'd rather them keep your creative player. I don't know. I like that. I'd rather them keep that than switch into a protagonist that somebody we've had before and just controlling like them the whole time. I like creating my own person. I would like for them to go that way. But depending on what the gameplay and all that kind of stuff looks like when we actually get like a real trailer for it, then we'll see.
So here's the thing. If you look at that trailer, actually, let's pull that back up for a second. It's kind of hard to see, but let's go all the way back. You see this right here? This says gameplay
not final.
Represents game in development. I think that's actual gameplay. And that's kind of crazy. I mean, look,
Unreal
we know
Engine
what they can
5?
do with. Yeah, I'm assuming it's Unreal Engine 5, bro, because like that's the only thing that has even comes close to being able to do. To me, if that is gameplay, we might be on to something. You know what I mean? I've been really. I think for me, the thing with Mass Effect is I've been waiting for Mass Effect to get back for BioWare to get back to being the BioWare that I love. So it's not just Mass Effect for me. It is Dragon Age. It is, really, I'd love to see them get another shot at a Star Wars game. I don't want them to do a Knights of the Old Republic again, but I'd love to see them do well enough. It's kind of crazy that for so long, EA had the Star Wars license exclusively, and they did not give it to BioWare to do a new Star Wars game. When BioWare did two of the greatest Star Wars games ever done in Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. They're two of the most popular Star Wars games ever. And it's like, EA, you own BioWare. You have the license for Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And instead, it's like, well, here's Battlefront. And I really think that came from them being so money hungry and wanted to do things that backfired against them with like Battlefront. Like if you remember when they put out Battlefront and Battlefront 2, it was like loot boxes and loot crates, and you gotta, you know what I mean, and surprise stuff, and take stuff out and put stuff back in, and whatever, right? And not that like the first one was crazy successful, and the only real complaint that people had was there was no story. So they put a story into the second one, and people didn't really care, right? But they did kind of give that story to a different team outside of DICE to do that. I feel like I would love to see, and in truth, my favorite BioWare game is Jade Empire. Like, I love that game. And it had all the things I wanted. I want kung fu and magic and whatever. It was great. BioWare's dope. And Mass Effect, great. I enjoyed the trilogy. Love the trilogy. They are some of the best games that are made, period, in the last 20 years, easy. And having I think it's the only game franchise to ever come out from the jump and say, we're doing a trilogy, and the decisions you make matter, and from game to game, that actually came to fruition, with the exception of how people felt about the very end at the ending. You know what I'm saying? But you could still go back right now, play Mass Effect 1, and make decisions that are different from decisions you made the first time, the second time, or the third time you played, and they affect the way that the game works in Mass Effect 2, and then that affects the way that things start off and how things are in Mass Effect 3, and nobody else has ever done that successfully. Nobody. And nobody has attempted to. And so I just think that Mass Effect kind of sits in this bubble, not just of how great those games were, but also in doing something within a space that is the biggest thing in entertainment that nobody else has ever done. And so for them to now have another opportunity, we'll say, to do Mass Effect and to like get it right, you know what I'm saying, is I think a big deal. This is the poster that they released today. And oddly enough, again, if you look in like the center of this jacket coat that she's wearing, which again, the coat's kind of dope. It looks like a nightclub. And they posted about how like Liara was also the shadow broker, and was, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like, yo, they might really be doing something dope with this here. And I'd be all in for it. I don't need a shepherd, but what was Shepard called again? A Spectre. I just give me a Spectre, and it don't have to be a human. It could be anybody. Like if they were to open it up and just be like, you're a Spectre.
Let you create and like pick any of those races that have been out there for it. Like that would be clean. But still, like Arya, what hell on earth type of thing would have to happen that you make Arya potentially a Spectre. Like something serious has to go down for that.
I mean, here's the thing. Just playing on Extra Life, going back to Mass Effect 3, which, by the way, if y'all trying to get down, just say something, because I'm.
There's no reason why like that Jones still plays well. It looks it's a little dated because you got to play the 360 version. You can tell, but that Jones is still smooth as far as getting in. Why did y'all leave that out of the remastered version?
Because they didn't want to deal with the servers. I think is what it came down to. What's up, Alfonso? Here's the thing. If you look at what they did with the multiplayer for Mass Effect 3, not for Andromeda, but for 3, all of the different character types and all of the different versions of those character types. I mean, you could be a Volus.
I know, right?
Little tiny, you could be a Volus that, was an adept or was, you know what I mean? Like so being able to choose any different version of those aliens and give them any sort of run of power sets that are available. And then, with BioWare being what BioWare is, man, just the romance options and, all that kind of stuff. Like, they could really, really open some things up. And I just, that's what I want to see. You know what I mean? Like, again, if they said, here's the deal, we're doing a main story, this is what it is, here's Liara, I'd be okay with that because I really like Liara. But I am with you, Sin, that the idea of being able to create your own character is a big deal. And so many people, I think part of why Mass Effect was such a big deal is because of FemShep. Because that first game, you couldn't do that.
You couldn't do that.
But Mass Effect 2, and that was one of the things they did do right when they did the remasters, where they made it so you could be FemShep from the very beginning.
Yep.
But
I don't think didn't they do FemShep till Mass 3? I thought was that 2 that they added FemShep. I don't think they did that until Mass. It was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2.
Because I know it was a big deal when they released the case and everything. They had the 2 different versions of FemShep because it was on front with the Omni tool. That's why I was like, almost. I feel like it was. They didn't do it until the third one.
It's easy. It's easy enough to look up, bro. Like he ain't said nothing but a word. We can check it. But I'm pretty sure FemShep hit first in, I think it was 2. Because I don't know. It just seems crazy to me that it would be that you would have waited until the third one before you could be a female shepherd. That can't be right. There's no way. Because people hated the ending of that joint so bad, and that's all that people talked about with that. I'm pretty sure it was in the second one. First one, you could be shepherd, but you only had the option to be male. And by the second one, when they let you redo the character, because I also remember that the first one was exclusive to the Xbox. And so the second one, when that came out, it was on PlayStation and it was on Xbox. And they had like the little comic book thing that you could get where you could make the decisions that were the important decisions from the first one, so that you could affect the game for all the people who are on like PlayStation who had never played the first one.
This is another one that I've bought this game multiple times. Like, because I got it originally on the Xbox, obviously. Second one came out on Xbox. Then they released, was it just the first 2 that was in that pack on PlayStation? Or was it all 3?
Say that again?
When it came out on PlayStation, was it just the first 2 that were in that pack? Or was it all 3?
When it came out on PlayStation, it was just Mass Effect 2.
They put a comic
originally
so that you were supposed to go through
with the it was Mass Effect 2, and then there was a comic book that came with it, or like a downloadable like comic or whatever that you played ahead of time. That again, you would like think of it almost like one of those fake like The Walking Dead games or whatever, where you just kind of go and you make the decisions from it. So here's the story of here's the story so far.
I think it was the second and third one. It didn't have the first one in there, and I think you have to make decisions from the first one to move over. Got it? Because I know I bought that on PlayStation when it came out. Got it?
Right. Yeah. As far as I can tell from what I'm looking at, FemShep hit in Mass Effect 2. Which I didn't play as until later because I continued my, from the first one. Yeah, I mean, look, I think they have a really good opportunity to do things right. I hope they do. I have this weird sense of faith in them, even though like almost nobody is there from when the original one was done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anymore. So it's not even like that same core team.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those people have moved on to other things, but still, you know, I do kind of want to see BioWare get back to being what it was. I'm gonna say before EA bought them, right?
Mhm.
Before, what was that other game that we just stopped playing? Man, they had the flight so right in that joint. That joint felt like Iron Man flying through the sky, bro.
Yeah.
Anthem. Woo.
Yeah.
There was so much potential in Anthem.
Huge.
And again, I honestly believe if it was just up to BioWare and EA didn't have their dirty paws in it, I think Anthem is a hit. I think Anthem would have been perfect. But again, it was EA being greedy and being grubby. This is still EA that like gets voted the worst game company every year or whatever,
but
and just
like
loot
crates,
Madden
and everything.
People on that. I mean, Madden doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's the EA FC that matters.
It's in the game.
Yeah, so I just think that like if they left them alone and just let them do what they do. I also think Microsoft should have bought BioWare when they did Jade Empire. That's what I think. And when they signed them to do Mass Effect exclusively, they made that mistake of allowing a third-party company to come in and buy them. And I think that's why they did the deal with Bungie originally. Somewhere in there. I said, all my homies. She said, all my homies hate EA. I understand. Mm-hmm. But they probably play their games and don't even, because all your homies play The Sims.
There we
go. See, we just want Sims 5. We just want open world and color wheels. I understand. You're going to wait a while. But I think E3 2024, Sims 5 is going to be a data download. I think they're going to bust us in the head with it.
Sims 5. Take it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Microsoft, that's one that slipped through the cracks. I think they should have bought BioWare when they did Jade Empire, or at least by the time they did Mass Effect 1. I mean, I think they saw what they did with Jade Empire and were like, we want to sign them to do an exclusive game for us. And they did that. Mm-hmm. And that was cool. And then EA just was like, you know what?
Let us go ahead and
yeah. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. All right. Now we got to get into some of this Marvel drama. But before we do, let's get into the Marvel dramatics.
Maya. I see everything that you are. I always have.
Oh!
You hear the echoes?
Hey man, you messed my man White's dude up, man. You had to do that.
Don't be afraid. You have so much pain in you. So much rage that you can't contain it. You and I are the same. So, who's the monster?
Set your Disney profile to TVMA to stream.
I mean, bro, let's talk about it. Couple things. One, I want to see what they're really going to do with Echo.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if they're going to make her a mutant. I want to see if they're really going to explore her power set. Now, I don't know what you all know about Echo in terms of her as a comic book character. But Echo is basically like Taskmaster. She's called Echo not just because she's deaf, but because she can mimic anything she sees. Mm-hmm. That's like what her abilities are. So she's a lot like Taskmaster in that. And the fact that we kind of didn't get that for real with Taskmaster, like we did, but we didn't. I don't know what they did with Taskmaster. I'm wondering if they're going to explore that in any way here. But I love how this feels like a Netflix show.
Mm-hmm.
I think from the trailer. Jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they're putting out all the episodes at one time? Disney has not done that. That has not been a Disney Plus move.
So, one, I think maybe because of the fact, Echo is not your Captain America, your Iron Man. I know if you didn't watch some of the shows, you're probably not already familiar with her. I do understand that the way that this series is going to be, it's kind of going to act like a standalone type of thing where you don't necessarily have to have previous knowledge from the MCU to work. But I have issue after hearing that, and then because this is actually the first time I actually saw the full trailer.
This does take place after Hawkeye Candace, although it does seem like in the trailer, like some stuff in the trailer looks like it takes place before that. But yes,
right.
This takes place after Hawkeye, which is why at the end when Fisk is talking to her, why he has the eye patch, because she basically shot his eye out, which is in the comics, she basically blinded him.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting at him, and the flash from the muzzle, whatever, made Kingpin blind. And so he had patches over both eyes in that. So I don't know that she actually shot his eye out because they don't show you what happened in the Hawkeye show.
Mm-hmm.
But my man is definitely wearing an eye patch in this, and that's because it does take place after Hawkeye. Yes, continue.
And also I think this is going to be kind of that test. Like obviously one TVMA, so that's gonna be a big thing. And then two, I think they want to try to use that Netflix catalyst type of thing, how you kind of did get everything and you were able to just go ahead and binge watch it, and probably to see how folks react if they just go in, binge through all the episodes, or maybe if they watch an episode, fall off. I feel like this is the test. And now that we're going down that route, also the fact that apparently they did mention that Blade is rated R, I feel like we may be starting to see that test where Disney's like, okay, let us test the waters with something that's a little more mature than the typical things that we normally put out. So let's just give them this whole batch at one time, and let's see if we can stir up the conversation with Echo. Like obviously this is going to be someone that majority of people are not going to be familiar with, and I think this could be like, I don't want to say a good reset point, but this is where you can potentially start to build and use some other characters that are necessarily not your main line Avengers and characters like that to maybe make some decent storylines that maybe, you know what, eventually they do evolve into the MCU as a whole, or we just keep them isolated and make like these one-off stories with these characters that prove to be like that Netflix quality of the shows that we got. But I think we're looking at a test here, and I think this could go really good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a couple of things. This show is going to Disney Plus and Hulu. And that to me says that they are intending to grab an audience that isn't the audience. They have to know that most of the people who are subscribed to Disney Plus are subscribed to Disney Plus for the stuff that Disney generally has, and that the majority of that content is in fact content that is completely safe for your entire family to watch. But they also do recognize that, well, we also have ownership in Hulu, and we have people that are subscribed to one and not subscribed to the other, right? But we have content that we think makes sense because we have people that are subscribed to Hulu that are also subscribed to Netflix, and those people are people who watched Daredevil, right? They watched Punisher. And so it makes sense to at least attempt, if you're only going to do it on, like, who else out there owns multiple streaming services?
Nobody. And you know what else? Actually, kind of
if you're Netflix, you just have to go to Netflix for whatever it is. But if you're Disney, you have Disney Plus and you have Hulu, and you don't have to have the same content on both, but you can. And so if you can, that means you're able to put content in front of more eyes, even if there are people who aren't subscribed to one or the other. That gives you an advantage that doesn't exist elsewhere, right? So I think that's a smart move. And I think doing something that is competitive to what we see Amazon Prime doing with shows like The Boys and Invincible, right? In terms of it being violent, superhero related, or comic book related, which again, Walking Dead is a comic book. The majority, I would say that probably 85% of the people who watch Walking Dead and love it and know every single thing that happened and every episode or whatever have no idea that it's a comic book. No idea, right? So I do think that there's a place where Marvel is coming to grips with the idea of everything doesn't have to go back to people going in and, like, you're not always trying to get people to go buy comic books, right? You're not trying to turn everybody into a comic book reader. What you are doing is you are attempting to get them to like your content and come back for your content. You want a subscriber to your service, not necessarily to your books. So I think you're right, Jokes. I think that makes sense. And I think this is a test. I think that the idea...
One more add-in, because Disney did buy the rest of the ownership of the Hulu side. So it could be that test on seeing, like, can we get away with putting these, like, obviously they had to put in the thing, set your Disney Plus to TVMA, otherwise you're not going to be able to watch this.
Right. But if you go to the YouTube video, the Marvel YouTube video, it says Echo streaming January on Disney Plus and Hulu, like in the title for it. Like they're calling out that this is going to be on both, right? So I think that's what that is. That's it. Could it be that people don't like him? So Disney thinks they better get the audience to try to keep them. I do not like him at all. Who? Kingpin?
Kingpin or him? Yeah, I was gonna say. Because right now,
you're not supposed to like Kingpin.
You ain't supposed to like him, but damn it, he plays that role.
Now buying comics anyway, never were. I disagree, J. Robert Deans. I think that there are a lot of people, probably not close to the viewing majority, that have watched stuff in the MCU, but I definitely think that they turned people who never bought a comic book before into people who were reading comics in some manner. Now, I also think that that's part of why they changed Kevin Feige's position and put him in charge of comic books as well, so that they can work to align those things so that they are kind of one and one. Again, we certainly didn't turn comic books into some kind of like money-making machine the way that MCU movies were. Not by a long shot. But do I think it was a shot in the arm, a boost? Absolutely. Because I also think it reinvigorated people who were comic book people who stopped being comic book people to go back and be comic book people again in some manner, right? Because now you're going, oh man, well, that's not the way it happened. It's such it's crazy because in the comics, this is what happened. And now you're talking to people who never picked up a comic and they're going, for real? That's what happened? Yes. In the comics, the Hulk went off and fought the whole planet. That's a thing, right?
I love having that conversation with people. Like I had that conversation where because someone knew about Marvel Comics, and I told him, oh, the Civil War comic compared to the movie, I was like, listen, every Marvel character that you could possibly imagine was involved in that story. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, name a Marvel character. I was like, you can name any of them. They were involved in that Civil War storyline in some shape and form. It was more than just the 10 of them that went to war with each other. And then it was more, there were bigger stakes involved than just
way bigger,
just of them fighting each other for
way bigger. Robert Dean says, in the 10 years I ran a shop, my sale numbers increased by less than 5% in the weeks around an MCU release. And I only had one customer say they tried out comics based on seeing a movie. And was that for 10 years of MCU? Because if it was early MCU, no. Because again, the MCU started with C-tier heroes. People knew who Iron Man was. Nobody cared, though. People knew who Captain America was, and he's corny. Nobody cared. You know what I mean? Most of the increase in sales were hardcore DC fans trying out Marvel books for the first time. Doesn't that count, though? Like, that counts. I think that counts. I mean, look, in any way, shape, or form, when you are multi-channel, the whole point of being multi-channel is to get people who are only interested in one channel or might have only even ever heard of or learned about it through one channel, that being TV or being movies or being comics, to try the other thing, to look at it from the other place. So like, oh, you thought this was cool? Check out the source material, right? And some people do, and some people don't. But it certainly does make an increase. If you, as a single shop owner, saw a 5% increase, what does that mean for Marvel over the course of all the shops where they're sending all of their books and for all their digital and for all their, like, that number for you has nothing to do. I mean, it has something to do, but it's a very small portion. Your 5% growth versus other thousands of comic book stores' 5% growth is a lot of money for them in the long run. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that's the bigger picture. So I think that's part of it. It doesn't count if the argument is the MCU is growing the comics market to new comic readers. Sure, it does. If there are 5% people who bought comics who didn't buy comics, that's growth. It doesn't matter if it's 1% or it's 5%. That's growth. That's still growth. And again, we're talking 5% growth just in your store. That also doesn't mean that's not a thing that we didn't see differently in Texas versus California versus Alaska, you know what I mean? And across comic book stores, not just in the US, but in comic books throughout the world, because these are movies that began to hit outside of the US and made these household names where people weren't thinking about these things at all in places where we're not even talking about. You know what I mean? So now you have MCU movies that are showing in China, and they certainly weren't buying comic books. You know what I mean? Prior to that. So there's definitely more to it. And look, we can't see what numbers they see, but I would certainly say that if you're going to expand what you do, every business now is interested in doing multi-channel. It's just kind of what it is. And for even for us, right? We made a decision when we started doing loading snacks. It was YouTube. We gotta be on YouTube. We gotta make YouTube do this, and we gotta get on. And now it's like we just need to be everywhere where everybody is. So if you're more comfortable on Twitch versus being on YouTube versus being on Facebook versus being on Twitter versus being on Instagram, go there and we're there. And that's kind of what they do. If the argument is new Marvel readers, then sure. My numbers were on par with most of the nation's shops when we had the national shop meetings. I think new is the meaning. I think that's what it is. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting new people in who weren't buying comic books before. And I think they're saying, all right, well, we're going to do it on Disney Plus and we're going to do it on Hulu. Let's go where the people are. Like, the idea of trying to force people into Disney Plus for all of the content they have, you begin to realize maybe that's not the right way to do it. We have access to this other thing because we also own that. There are people who are already there. Let's put it there. And does that mean that if somebody watches something on Hulu and they go, oh, they got stuff like this on Disney Plus, is there stuff that's only on Disney Plus? Would it make sense for me to double up my subscription and do the deal where I get Hulu and Disney together instead of doing one or just the other or whatever? I mean, that's how they got me, because I certainly didn't have Hulu at first. Now I got all three. Ask me if I watch ESPN. Go ahead. Ask me.
Maybe if it's a boxing match or something like that.
Bro, if somebody getting beat up,
that's about it.
Got that.
That's about it.
Got that. But that's about it.
That's it. Like, yeah, but that's the point. So I do think that this show will be, I think it is a test, right? I think it's right at the beginning of the year. I think you're right, Jokes. I think let's see how this does. I think it is smart in this case, put it all out at once, because what was happening when Daredevil would drop, and they dropped all 13 episodes, and people were just like, you're talking about it at the water cooler, at work with the next person the next day or whatever, and you didn't get through all the episodes. Hold on. Don't say it. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish watching it, whatever. Those things became the most watched, shows in Netflix history and so forth. I do think there's something to be said for that, where I think that what they've been doing, where they like drip feed you. Here's an episode, and then next week you get another episode, and the next week you get another episode. And there are plenty of people who are just like, I'm just gonna wait till it all comes out, and then I'll watch it all. I'll just binge.
The times on each other are off. One's 30 minutes, 157 minutes. Like,
that's the only that
it messes with you, right? So like, I think that drip feed gets to people. I think there are plenty of people who are just like, nah, I just want to see it all. Is my Disney bundle doubling in price this month too? Probably, because everything else did.
Bruh,
like Netflix went up to like $25.
Dog, they getting out of hand now. It's getting out of hand. I'm so happy I bought into the Disney Plus thing on Ground Zero for that 3 years.
Champs.
And then when I switched and had Verizon cell phone service, and they included Disney in the package before they went away with it, so it put my Disney Plus that I had already purchased on hold. And so once they yanked it away, it just started resuming. I still have like 2 years left of that, and so I haven't paid for Disney Plus in since the day it came out. Technically,
I mean, look, you're in there, right? You're grandfathered in for a couple of years, but when it's over,
it catches
that
up
price
with
jump for
me,
you is going
to be nasty.
It's gonna be terrible. I'll be honest. I'm not positive why they don't. It's one of my gripes with Xbox. I think one of the things that PlayStation does way better than Xbox does is they let you just pay for the year. Just pay for the whole thing and be done with it. Amazon does the same thing. Amazon Prime, you pay for the whole year and you're just done, right? And you just take that hit whenever your joint renews, you know what I'm saying, for the whole year. I get the idea of being able to do month to month and to stop if you want to or whatever, if you don't have it right away to pay for the whole thing. But they also generally give you, PlayStation gives you a pretty significant discount for paying for the whole year if you decide you want to do PlayStation Plus at whatever tier you want to do it at, right? I feel like Microsoft could really learn a lot from that. To me, it's like people are in and they know they're in. Right. And just so just let them why? I don't understand why the idea of the subscription service at this price point is such a big deal month over month. I know that it makes you feel like you have money coming in, but the money's already there. Somebody paid you for the whole year. Right. So it's like it's there. And I do think that could be beneficial for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I think it's way better for gifting. Right. So when it's somebody's birthday or it's, a holiday or whatever, to get the family a full year of, this service or whatever is the big thing. The other thing that they did, I don't know if y'all saw this, but Max. Oh, Max. Ooh, boy, the fire from Max. So Max changed their plans. So if you are grandfathered in to the Max plan from HBO Max, it's like $50. It had already gone up to $15 a month. Now you're still in at $15 a month, ad free, whatever. It looks like nothing changes. However, if you want 4K, it's $20 a month. It's $20 a month. So they basically downgraded rather than have people. You're right. 80 to 150 is, you're right. It is. But again, this is also the greediness of. It's the reason why there's a strike right now. It is the greediness of the people at the top, and it also is them saying, okay, well, the writers got what they want, and now the actors are pushing for this. So in order for us at the top to not get less money and end up having to give up some of our money to give it to them so they can have the royalties and stuff, and since you all as the people who consume it, want the writers to have it so bad and want the actors to have it so bad, y'all got to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Which, like, we talked about like months ago. Like, the reality of it is, in order for them to get what they want, and they're like, we just want a fair wage and we just want whatever. And we're like, yeah, they should get paid fairly. You're going to pay more for movie tickets. You're going to pay more for streaming services. You're going to pay, like, you just are. Like, that's what it is, because they're not going to be willing to take a hit on the amount of money that they make. Mm-hmm. They don't want to lose any money. So in order for them to have more money to give to the people who we're saying should get more money, we got to pay for it. That's how that works. It kind of is what it is. Yep. Eventually, some of these services are just going to fall off. They're just going to go away. And they'll realize that it makes more sense for them. They'll be able to survive and make more money by licensing the product that they own out to other companies to stream. Just let other people have it. Because the reality of it is, if you have Netflix, you can't come close to watching everything that's on there anyway. You can't. It's the same issue that people had with cable to begin with. Well, I'm paying all this money, I have all these channels, but I clearly can't watch it all. Correct. You can't. You're paying for things you can't possibly watch. But when you had TV for free, you clearly couldn't watch that all either. So that's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of par for the course. So like I was this close to just canceling Max. Just because I was mad about the way they did it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what I will say though, when I really think about it, like it feels like they took something from me that I paid for. Like I paid for the higher end, and they were just like, we don't want to lose you, but we also don't want you to have the best thing, right? So you're gonna stay where you are, and we're just gonna move it, and we're gonna take away something that we had given you, something that you paid us for, and now we're just gonna tell you that what you're paying doesn't get you that anymore, right? Which, by contrast, Netflix goes, yeah, so your price is just going up, and they just charge you more. So I'm at an impasse. I'm like, I guess maybe I shouldn't be mad at them, because at least they didn't just go, oh no, we're just increasing your price. They gave me an option, right? And if I want it, then I can opt in and I can pay more and get, the 4K, which I don't watch Max often enough. I feel like to do it, but I will tell you this: the first time there is something on Max that I want to watch, and I boot it up, and it's not in 4K, I'm gonna throw up.
That's gonna be.
I'm gonna throw up, and they're gonna get my money. It's what it is. Because every house, every TV in the house is 4K except for like 2.
Got it.
And that probably isn't gonna last through the end of the year, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? So like, and at this point, like 4K TVs are so cheap. They're like, why wouldn't you just give people 4K? Like that feels. Anyway, that's enough of that. Sin, we had a great conversation yesterday with our good friend Adam Butler on the Butler Did It podcast, did we not?
Yes, we did. Got to know all about the MCU.
We did. We talked a lot about the MCU and Jonathan Majors and what's going on with him and what they should do about Kang, and a little bit about the Variety piece that came out. That's not going to hit until Thursday, and we're not going to take that thunder from him. However, so I highly suggest look up the Butler Did It podcast. Look for that episode to go live on Thursday. Sin and I were happy to join Adam. He's a great friend of ours and a great friend of the show. However, we can't not talk about where the MCU is to some extent here. So we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, curveball.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Jokes.
Yo, what's up?
What's the difference between an action figure and a doll? Very careful.
Oh, man. Like, so an action figure would be like, I guess this is
J. Robert Dean's missed you. Love you. Thank you for jumping in.
Have a good one. Would be like, well, before I say specific, like compare like a G.I. Joe and like a Barbie doll, I know boys mostly play with action figures and girls play
Sure,
with
what's the
dolls.
difference? Heather says marketing.
Good call. Other than that, technically there wouldn't be much of a difference. I mean, it's technically one and the same, but I guess in marketing standpoint, obviously action figures go more towards the boys and dolls go towards the girls than anything else. But if you break it down, like in saying like how they're made and like what they're made of and things, they're technically the same thing.
Sin?
Action figures, they're the more posable ones. You know what I mean? Like a Transformer or a G.I. Joe, like the later G.I. Joes. Those earlier ones, yeah, those are more like dolls. But the later ones,
so the earlier G.I. Joes were not action figures.
Like the giant
they
ones.
Had like this straight arm. They were like
one pose,
right?
Yeah,
Like
the
straight
one
arm,
pose.
straight legs. They were movable, but they didn't have all the opposable
like the joints
parts,
and everything. Yeah,
the elbow and the joints and the wrist and all that. They ain't have that.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between them. Once they switched over and went, you can move their knees and arms and all that kind of stuff. Then and they coming up with guns. Figures. They come with weapons. Like then they became action figures. The early ones, no, were dolls. Just for boys. I mean, dress it up how you want, but it is what it is.
Got it. Okay. J. Robert Dean says Heather is right. Dolls and action figures are the same thing. It's the insecurity of fathers buying a product that determines which your child has. I mean, that's pretty much it. Early G.I. Joes were dolls. I mean, I can't. I would have all right. Now I'm okay. J. Robert Dean. I would say I would never. I don't think you could call a Transformer a doll.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's no way a Transformer is anything but an action figure.
Mm-hmm.
However, guts, army ants, muscles, little green army men, they don't have no action.
Those are just toys.
They figures. Just
Sure.
toys. They don't even get.
Yeah, they just.
I think it's time for Barbie to break into some of the fantasy. Cabbage Patch is not an action figure. You are right. I mean, their bodies are soft, right? Like Cabbage Patch have hard heads.
You knock somebody out with that head.
You can walk somebody just like. Who, like my buddy?
I definitely had a my buddy.
Oh, I had a my buddy.
Teddy Ruxpin.
I remember the tape deck. Teddy Ruxpin.
With the tape deck in the back.
Yeah, he's just a stuffed animal.
He was an animatronic. He's not. That was not a stuffed animal.
It was a stuffed animal with a radio with him. Like,
man. But that joint's scary, bro. Did your Teddy Ruxpin ever get up and run around the room?
I didn't have a Teddy Ruxpin.
All right.
No. You didn't make a wish.
What about you and my buddy? That joint ever just get up and
not to my knowledge.
I'll never forget. My brother got the black my buddy for like his birthday or Christmas one time, and he cried his eyes out. He was so terrified of that thing. Sorry for telling that story. It was the funniest thing. So moms ended up swapping them out. So I would take the white joint and put it on the top of the steps to scare my brother.
Hey, we used to do that in the dungeon all the time.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Shoot, man. Yeah, dolls are scary, and action figures are not. He-Man, Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, dolls. I said what I said. Wow. Nope. I mean, again, Thundercats and like He-Man, they have all the opposable.
But they can move their arms, they can swing their little thighs.
Smokey can. Smokey can. So are you trying to say? Listen, are you saying that the difference between the action figure and the doll is a little rubber band in their waist?
That's it, dog. That's it.
It's over. It's over.
Hey.
Oh God.
That's it. Come on, man.
Oh God.
All right. Battle damage 10, son. That's right. Thunder Punch He-Man, bro, with the caps in his back. You don't know nothing about that. Yeah. I mean, they had weapons. But like if you'd have took like like He-Man and you looked at like Taylor, Evelyn, Sorceress, I mean, they dolls. She-Ra, dolls. Was She-Ra an action figure?
Yeah.
All right. How come there's no Ninja Barbie? She do everything else.
I don't know. We got to talk to Mattel on that one.
Yeah.
Like,
let's call him. Let's make it happen. I think we can do that.
Barbie.
Ninja Barbie.
Yeah.
Samurai Barbie.
Hey, Jokes.
Yo.
So the Variety article that came out about the MCU was pretty scathing, but a lot of the stuff that came out in the article has been debunked. So we're not even really going to get into it. But there are some things that I think that are worth kind of touching on.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things they said was that, you know, they're planning to get rid of Jonathan Majors as Kang and make Dr. Doom the big bad, you know, whatever. I don't think that's true. I think that's always what the plan was. Because we've been talking about them having Dr. Doom because they've been talking about Secret Wars and he is the big bad of Secret Wars. So like I would say that that's regular. Like I think that's just part of what's happening.
So like like Loki or Kang is this build up to Loki. Like he was the big bad starting out, but by you get to the end of the first
there's a
saga
shift
of the MCU.
There's
a shift. It turns out that it was him the whole time that was doing it. And that'll be Dr. Doom this time around.
Correct. Right? Like we start out with Loki as like, oh man, Loki is the thing that they got to deal with.
Yeah.
But behind him was Thanos, right?
Thanos. That's who sent Loki. That's the guy.
Yeah.
He's coming.
Jokes. Again, I just kind of want to pull some of your opinion because again, Sin and I had a good conversation about this already with Adam. Again, people can tune into that on Thursday. So I just kind of want to get where you are on some of this stuff that we didn't get a chance to kind of talk to you about. Do you think the MCU is in a bad place right now?
I don't think they're fully in a bad place yet, but I think they could easily get to that bad place. I know I was reading the rumors where they were talking about, they're gonna pull, the original Avengers back into the fold to retell stories and things because it seems like things are falling off. I feel like this is just like we're doing the same thing with the comic. Like obviously we're telling a story, and at points you gotta jump off where you were at, and you gotta start something new. You gotta start something fresh. So obviously you can take it, and actually we had this discussion on Spoiler Boys, kind of how we take a Loki who is pretty much a well-known throughout the whole entire MCU, but you change him and you're gonna repackage him and give him a little bit of a different story for it. There's some characters because it's Loki, Tom Hiddleston is not going to necessarily age out of that character now because of the fact that time is involved and you can do all these other things with them if you choose to. But I don't think the MCU is in a bad place. I just think I guess people are not receptive or open. I won't say every single person to trying to do these, hey, the first phases are done. The Thanos, the big bad is done. We have to start. We're technically starting over again, and we're going to kind of like build back up to that point for it. So I think the expectation with Marvel now MCU is like every single movie that's going to come out needs to be this gigantic, epic story or whatever it is. Instead of, okay, we need to tell these. We're going to kind of tell these individual stories. And we're going to like pace ourselves. And we're going to start to build up to be that eventual big, because obviously the Avengers are getting back together. It's going to end up being a different team. So we know there is going to be a serious major threat, whether it be Kang. Obviously, Kang has his own Avengers movie. And then we have Secret Wars that has its own movie. So we got to build up to these points again. But I think everybody is just expecting that every single MCU movie that's going to come out is going to be like this heavy hitting thing that's just going to continue to advance the story. For all we know, like the Marvels, yes, we know there's going to be some type of tie-in for the greater MCU, but at the same time, we got to tell this Captain Marvel story to formulate if she's going to be like majorly involved in the Avengers. Is it going to be Miss Marvel that's going to be more involved with it, or is it going to be Rambo? For all we know, they could take. There's 3 of them, but all 3 of them may not make it to the end of this. So we got to kind of tell those stories as we go along with it. But I just don't think a lot of people are just tuned in that way. Maybe would be the way to say it.
Is the Marvels gonna flop?
I don't think it's going to do the expectations of probably what they're thinking of. I think it's definitely. I don't think it's going to do what it did with Captain Marvel. The first one did. I think it's going to do. I think it's going to do okay numbers. I don't think it's.
I think that movie. I think the budget on that movie is $250 million.
Mm-hmm.
Does it beat that?
I think it's going to take time. I don't know if they're going to do it.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you buy your ticket yet?
I have not bought my ticket yet. Just for me. No, hold on. For me,
did you buy a ticket for the Marvels?
Mm-hmm. It's just really off. I just got to figure out timing because right now, like, I have to work the whole entire Thursday, which normally, I'm always in the early showing. By the time I get off, like the next showing is like at 10, and I don't think I'm gonna do that. Friday, I got like the late bop, so it's probably gonna be Saturday at the earliest. Is where I'm probably gonna be seeing it.
Okay.
Otherwise, normally I'm always Thursday, either that 4:00 showing because they've been doing that with the last, I would say maybe like 4 or 5 Marvel releases. They've been having like a 4:00 IMAX showing. That's normally where I'm at for that. But we'll see. I always end up working something out anyway.
Okay. What's the thing that Marvel's doing now, or the upcoming thing that you're most excited for? And why is it Echo?
Facts.
I would say I'm definitely intrigued by Echo. Being that this is going to be Marvel's first TV MA thing that they're doing outside of like the Netflix things, I'm interested to see how they're going to handle that. Right now, the one for me, and I know we give it crap the whole entire time. Fantastic Four right now is like the one that I'm looking forward to most because just this is the perfect opportunity to try to build on something that at this point it just seems like it's not going to work. And either it's going to come out and it's going to do well, or it's just everybody's going to trash it. Like, I know we talk about the way like the I know we rag on Fantastic Four whenever we talk about it, but I think that's the one that I'm really super amped for. Yeah, it does. Just because it ties into a lot of these things that we're currently looking at right now. The Kang specifically, with just knowing, how Reed Richards it's tied into Kang. It's just this is one that seems like it has the potential to create something super amazing, or they're going to just drop the ball. And I hope not, because the Fantastic Four does. I don't know if deserve is the word to use, but I think they deserve a spot within the MCU. But I know. Listen, I know.
Do you know? I was this close to throwing it backstage. Said
listen,
Four,
I know, and you know what? I totally get it.
I let you get it off.
But it's the one right now. Like obviously, like Blade. I know they've had to go back and they've done some rewrites and things for that. We know what Wesley Snipes did for Blade. It was cool. I don't know exactly what we're going to get with this new iteration of Blade. Fantastic Four is the only thing that, as outside of the other 2 movies, we don't really have anything other than John Krasinski being in Multiverse of Madness, and we don't even know if he's actually even still going to be playing Mr. Fantastic or not. So,
listen, why don't we have a Shang-Chi 2 already?
That is honestly a great question, because after that first saga, they would have been kicked out of Shang-Chi 2 by now, and I do think it's overdue for one. Maybe they're too busy trying to get all these other characters out that they plan on throwing in the Avengers whenever that comes around. Maybe they want to get their stories out and tie up loose ends, if you will, from Endgame and all that type of stuff with people dealing with their traumas and the passing of torches with everybody. Maybe that's the only reason I can think of why they're just trying to shave off what's left over before they concentrate fully on everything. I do agree it's way too long. Way too long.
I think that's a lot of what the problem is. I think that, like, again, we got Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that was, in this case, we're introducing whole teams, right? The Eternals, right? We're finishing up whatever's going on with Guardians. We introduce a new character that they put enough behind him to give him his own movie, and nobody's heard of this dude. Like, nobody knows Shang-Chi. He's like this obscure, like, just old character that was like super duper. It should be a 2024 movie, at least.
Yes.
But like, to me, they should have done that joint, like, and it did well enough to do a sequel. It should have been on the slate for getting a second movie way before now. Cause I like, when's the last time we heard anything about the 10 Rings? When's the last, like, we were talking about a movie that then went all the way back and brought in stuff from like Iron Man 3 and whatever, right? And so the 10 Rings, the Bangle, how it's tied to the multiverse, how it's tied to Kang or to the, like, in some way, like, I feel like a lot of that stuff is getting thrown away. And
no even extra credit scenes or nothing like that. Like something to tease or nothing, yeah.
Like, well, it just feels like, here's something new, here's another something new, here's another something or someone new, and here's another something new, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of being like, here's like, I feel like there was a great opportunity for people to fall in love with Shang-Chi and the cast around him. And even if you did a second movie where you put Wong in it and you had a couple of other characters who are familiar with, right? Because you had Captain Marvel in his teaser.
I was going to
say,
like,
at the end of his stinger, you had Captain Marvel, you had Shang-Chi, and you have the Hulk, and you have them saying, welcome to the team, right? Like, this is part of your life now. Where has Slim been?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, right now with Captain Marvel movie, this is a good time to reintroduce, especially if he's been off, like, they've been like researching, obviously, the 10 Rings, the Bangle, like all of this. This is going to be that time probably to bring him back in. If they don't do it right now with the Captain Marvel, whether it's an after credit scene or something, I feel like we ain't gonna get this another Shang-Chi movie probably at this point. It's not even on the slate. Like, we know there's a couple of still untitled jokes that were on there. There was a few that got pulled off. I don't know. It's almost like I don't want to say they forgot this dude, but it's like they've like written him off. And like, I hope not, because
I mean, I just think they're not doing a good job of taking characters that they introduce and making them matter to the public because they're not keeping them in the spotlight. So we should have seen Shang-Chi in somebody else's something. Like a TV show. There should have been
No,
they supposed
not 2027, because at this point, by the time we get to 2027, that means, you know what he's doing? He's just going to be in the Avengers. He's literally just going to show up in the Avengers, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you do that? That's what I'm saying. Like, how
Jana might be right. Jana might be right. Yeah,
right now, we all need a spreadsheet, because I just think when you look at Moon Knight, and like they're trying to do something with Werewolf by Night, and you look at, like, when you look at all the characters that they have introduced at this point, right? There aren't characters for you to have latched onto to even care about, right? And that's the difference between what the MCU is now since Endgame and what it was prior to that. People learned to love Tony Stark. They learned to love and their personalities, right? And how they interacted with each other, right? So, no, we didn't get the Hulk movie we wanted. We got a lot of Thor. We got a lot of Cap. We got a lot of Iron Man, right? We had plenty of Black Widows sprinkled in between, showing up in other movies, right? You introduce Black Panther, you give him a movie, you introduce, Spider-Man, you give him 2 movies, you know what I mean, or whatever, right? And like you care about these characters. You introduce the Guardians, and you're hurt when you see Thanos actually chuck Gamora off the side. Like you care. That build up does not exist right now in a post Endgame world. They have thrown so many characters at us in so much time. Possibly, and you're right, Perk. X-Men. That's the other thing. It's like now you got all that X-Men. Zane says it's a really big issue. Marvel movies used to make me want to research the characters and jump full into the world, and I haven't felt that spark since probably Love and Thunder. And that's the last time you really got something from a character that we already knew and therefore had a reason to care about outside of Loki.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
and another one too. Ironheart.
They dropped the ball with Shang-Chi. Simu was in Barbie. Marvel could have leveraged that. Absolutely.
Yeah, could have easily. Ironheart, like obviously,
he should have been too busy doing another Shang-Chi movie to be in Barbie. Is what really should have happened. That's how I feel.
He probably should have been busy that role because it wasn't there.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
dropping the ball with long-term storytelling this time around right now.
And just because they're moving stuff around, like I was saying, like Ironheart, like obviously that was another character they introduced to us, and we were supposed to be getting the show, but obviously with changes now, like that doesn't even have a release date now. That just got like pulled off the slate, and they haven't placed that back in yet. So,
I mean, look, Armor Wars is going from being a show to a movie. What does that even mean?
I still want to know how we're going to get to when you tell me like something that's got wars at the end of it, it feels like somehow we probably already should have touched on this somewhere. Like obviously we've had Falcon and Winter Soldier. We've had Secret Invasion. I mean, not whatever, but I don't know what we're really leading up to a war amongst all these armors other than people just randomly trying to build their own suits around the world.
It's not like they haven't introduced characters that I like or that I have like new characters that I haven't, wanted to see more of. But there are parts of me that are like Secret Invasion, like we should have seen Cap in that. You know what I mean? Like one of them. We should have seen both of them.
At least
you know what I mean? Like it just is. We're at a place where a lot of like the ground level stuff seems like it doesn't matter because we're so galactic and we're so multiversal and we're so, you know what I mean? Personally, I kind of like the idea of things not being released in chronological order on purpose, but I can see what has lost the audience at the same time. Look, again, as a person who reads comic books, as a person who read comic books, it's actually a point that I brought up during our talk the other day, which COVID was something I brought up too. COVID and the strike really forced MCU to adjust from Iron Man to Endgame. We really never had delays. Again, that is one of the things that is part of why they're suffering now, because what happened during COVID changed so much in terms of writing and the storytelling and what have you, and that wasn't something that affected him prior to that. Zane said they aren't even handling the original characters well anymore. Secret Invasion in my eyes was such a flop. I never made past episode 2 because I didn't care anymore. Well, let me just tell you, you should watch it to the end. Because there are definitely some things in there, and there are some characters in there that, like, again, there's a couple people in there who I'm just like, oh yeah. But I get that, right? Because I don't know if we really need to see Nick Fury be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I really need that from him. I like the Nick that we already had, but two sides of every coin, right? I think that a lot of it again is that they are right now, for me, making the mistake that DC made when they were trying to just like, well, they already at Avengers, they already at Endgame, so let's just do it. Let's just give them the Justice League. Just put all the people out, and nobody cared. Because you're trying to talk to an audience that does not know who all these characters are or whatever, where the MCU took their time and kind of built up and gave you characters and you cared about the characters. Like if you really think about it, Go back and watch those movies. These are characters that do not refer to each other by their superhero names. They refer to them by their names. We don't call Clint Hawkeye. He's Clint. You know what I'm saying? It's Natasha.
Wanda.
It's not Black Widow, right? We call Rogers. It's Steve. It's not Cap. I mean, sometimes Tony. It's Cap. You know what I'm saying? But like
Tony or just like Stark.
we Stark. It's Stark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Stank. It's Tony Stank. Like it's you know what I mean? Like it's Rhodey. It's we know those characters as comic book readers. We know who War Machine is. We know like, but in the MCU they built character around like Giant Man. Nobody really cares, but everybody knows who Scott Lang is, right? So they built something around the people, and you cared about the people, and that is the difference in what made those movies something bigger and better, and not just a superhero movie. They were character-driven movies with character-driven stories and plot lines, and you cared about the people that then had access to these abilities or these powers or these other people that they knew. You don't really have that now. And that's, I think, the biggest problem is that it's much harder for somebody to be ingrained, like long-term, in what happens to a Kate Bishop who's basically just Hawkeye 2, right? Because we got a show and then we didn't get anything else. We don't have anything else, and it's been years. You know what I mean? Like it's just been so long that like when she shows up again, be like, oh yeah, I remember her. And that shouldn't happen. It should be like, oh yeah, I remember you.
Not to anybody new Avengers.
Exactly. Exactly. They basically introduce all of the young Avengers.
Yeah.
They're like all there. We have nothing that shows that they know each other or that they met each other or that they're, you know, like the closest thing we got to that. This is why Hawkeye was good, was because they brought in Yelena. They brought in the new Black Widow. They made it matter that this is her sister that like we got introduced to in a movie that wasn't great. You know what I'm saying?
She was the best part of the movie.
But she was so good in that movie, and it felt like there were threads because we didn't just get her. Then we turn around and we get, oh, that's youngin' with the purple hair from the CIA joint who was also in the Captain and Winter Soldier joint. Who is she? What is she doing? Right? And is she really the power broker? No. Right? So like these characters that we did have that we were tied to, Agent 13. Well, now she this whole shadowy underground doing all this stuff. She just went AWOL. Somebody punch her. Let's do something. Let's get her. I want to know what's going on. But we left all of that on the floor. And so now you have these threads that feel a lot like, dare I say it, witness protection. Many of the plot lines and storylines within the MCU are exactly what the person who we were supposed to be finding out who was in witness protection in WandaVision. The very first TV show they did, we never found out who it is. Who is this dude supposed to be going to find?
And it wouldn't be a thing if they didn't keep bringing it up. If they didn't keep like making it like a subtle thing, like, all right, whoever that person is, like it's something big or whatever, and then just
must be somebody. It's got to be a thing, you know, whatever. Balls. For sure. And now there are plot lines that exist in that same way, threaded throughout. Correct. Baron Mordo should have had more screen time. We should have seen more of what's going on with him. Again, because these are characters that were already introduced to us.
Yeah.
And we're waiting to see what happens with them, right? And so instead of filling out those plot lines, we just, here's something new, here's something new, here's something new, here's something new. And that's not terrible, but it is because you're losing people. They might be gaining new people in other arenas, right? Who are like, there may be people who are interested in Shang-Chi who just aren't interested in anything else.
Listen,
Loki, but it's not likely.
Loki has one episode that they could easily solve the problem with witness protection, but they ain't gonna do it. It's just
we ain't never gonna find that out. Come on,
have my man go yank whoever it is out of the sacred timeline.
Here's the thing. I think for a long time, right? we began to find that we could trust that plot lines that got kind of left open,
Marcus,
that we felt like didn't make
Raven,
sense
Raven
or
got delayed.
weren't that big a deal or whatever, that we could trust that they would eventually get back to them, which is the thing they did with Shang-Chi. Like, if you look at the amount of time between Iron Man 3 and that whole Mandarin thing, and then getting to Shang-Chi and being like, oh, snap, they really bringing back the 10 rings? Like, they're really talking about that. They really about to make this important? That the idea that they would go back to a thread that's so old, in a plot line that's so old, like, you started to have this trust, like, and that was the beginning of this phase. And now it's like, where is all of that? What are we doing with all of that? And if they don't answer some of that in this movie, it's going to be much harder for them to continue to, you know what I mean, to do more. And so I think that's a lot of it. I think that we just went out and we hired a bunch of new actors, right? Well, we got to replace these people. All right, so give me like 5 core people and let's do their movies. Let's do their movies, right? And then sprinkle something in, and then let's have our big bad, right? But I think it's harder to do it that way. And I think now we're at a place where, just like if you read comics, you don't read all of them. You could be a huge Marvel fan, but you only pick up X-Men, and you only pick up, you know, there's like 3 Avengers books at any given time. You're only reading one of them, right? Or there's 3 X-Men books at any given time, and you're only reading one of them. Maybe you're reading X-Men, and you're reading Avengers, and you're reading Spider-Man. And like, that's it. Right. And that doesn't mean that there aren't things happening in the Fantastic Four books that are canon. Right. It doesn't mean there aren't things that are happening in a Scarlet Witch book somewhere that are canon, or an Incredible Hulk, or an Invincible Hulk, or a, you know, whatever Hulk they make next week. Those things are still happening and they're still canon. And eventually they do an event that affects all of them. And you need to pick up some of everybody's books to get the entire story. Right. And it feels like right now it's like, well, you know, if you want to see what's going on with Captain America, here's your movie. And if you want to see what's happening with Shang-Chi, well, here's your movie. But you still have to keep those threads going. They're not doing that right now. So I do feel like if at least they made it so that the TV shows were all tied in to each other in some way. Every single show that they do that's just TV, there's a cameo or something from somebody else that is tied to other shows that are TV, even if we are going to bring them into a movie later. At least then, when you're watching the TV show, you're not going to watch Moon Knight and get nothing about Kate Bishop, get nothing about WandaVision or some character from Wanda. You're not going to get nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you, at least if you did that, if you're not going to the movies, you at least have a reason to be tuned into the TV shows. And you're like, yep, Disney Plus, because every time Marvel puts out something, it feels like that thread is continuous and it makes sense. Well, right now, if you watch one, you don't have to watch the other, and it doesn't really matter. And you can watch She-Hulk, and yes, there are some things that happen that seem like they're going to affect the greater MCU. Like, if you ain't watched She-Hulk, I guess you don't know Hulk has a son. That's kind of a big deal. Like, it should be a big deal.
That should be a major deal.
Like She-Hulk. See?
Yeah, that should be a major deal.
You know what I mean?
Was just kind of just thrown there, and it was just like,
here, just take this, and we're just going to leave it there and not say nothing about it.
And we haven't gone back to that at all.
2020, rewrites, reshoots, issues with CGI, all of that is all part of that. Same thing with Moon Knight, same thing. But again, at least try to make the threads seem like they matter to each other, at least within the TV shows, so that then when you pull these greater characters out, you have something that makes it feel like they're tied together. Because right now, Moon Knight just exists. And it doesn't matter to me. And like, if Moon Knight doesn't show up in some Avengers movie or get a movie or something like that, I'd just be like, all right.
Yeah.
But they did say they were doing a season 2.
Yeah.
So get it popping.
Yeah, they did confirm that he is a part of the MCU. That Marvel Encyclopedia book that came out.
Yeah. We know he's MCU.
Or within it. Like, because they didn't really, obviously there was no super connection between him and like some of the other characters in there. But yeah, season 2, wherever
I'm just saying,
sprinkled in that.
There's a part of me that can appreciate the idea that Marvel has characters that they can just be like, we're just doing a show for this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, technically they're a part of the greater MCU, but they don't necessarily have anything to do with this fight that we're going to have at the end of these movies. They need
to make a distinction. They need to get
and I do feel like they can do that. Yeah, like he exists in the same world, but
somehow he's not a part
going to show up to fight.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I mean, or whatever. Like you can say that, and I think they need to do that. Otherwise, again, agree. At least tie the TV shows together. Like, do that for me. If Miss Marvel is in New York, cool. There's so many other characters in New York.
Mm-hmm. Well, she can just easily just
make it work. That's all. Just, you know what I mean, and that's where I'm at. End rant. Sin.
Yo.
We jumped into the show super fast. I didn't ask you to do your job. If you would, please.
Yeah. So let's shout out our top tier patrons, starting with Anthony Cunningham, Marcus Houston, Susan Dortch, Tyrone Carson, Meticulous Skin, Alex Lee, Ellis Embe, and Kermit Ferguson. Thank you very much. We truly, truly appreciate it.
That's a fact. Mm-hmm. Can you get the Beacons link up for people? Mm-hmm. While y'all are doing that, let's talk about what's going on over the next couple of weeks.
You got to jump.
So next week,
yeah.
Okay.
Jokes, we need to talk about what time you work next Tuesday, because that might be a problem. But right now, the plan is for next Tuesday's show to be a crossover show between Loading Snacks Weekly and the Loading Snacks Movie Club. We are all going to come together and we are going to do our top 10 movie franchises of all time. It's going to be a long show, kind of like this one. Expect at least 2 hours. We're planning to start early. So instead of going live at 8:30, the plan right now is to go live at 7:30. Because we're going to need some extra time to make that happen. So next week's show is going to be just that. We're not going to touch news. We're not going to talk about, unless something crazy happens, we might say it and then move on. But we gotta, it's going to take some time to go through all of our top 10s and do the math to figure out how the top 10s, how that's going to work. So, look, feel free to put together your own top 10 movie franchises of all time, because definitely while we're doing some math and figuring some things out, we're going to want to hear from you all to know what some of your favorite franchises are, and see how yours correlate with ours. That's right. Avengers level Loading Snacks event. Facts. Heather. And then once that's done, relax, Candace. What is the criteria for a franchise? Funny you should say that, Cuddy. So here's what we came up with. Franchises technically, again, this is movie franchises. Franchise is anything that has more than one film. That's where we are. This started out as a thing about the best trilogies or sagas. Go King Beef. You got me. Martin. Go ahead, Sam.
Send no.
Martin. He's dressing with the swole dude doing his little stupid dance.
So just don't forget to upload that chip video.
It ain't happening.
So yeah. So technically anything that has more than one film is a franchise. So what we kind of discussed amongst each other was that, like, if you say, let's say Ninja Turtles, that would encompass all of the Ninja Turtles movies. So like those first 3 live action movies, all of the Michael Bay movies, and the animated movies are all in that. That's franchise. I don't think almost anything that has a trilogy, I would say, counts as a franchise. But the problem is that we basically figured out that really nothing has a trilogy anymore because everybody went to a fourth or something like that.
Fourth.
Does John Carpenter's horror verse count? I don't know if I would call that a franchise. But
Fridays are a franchise. Nightmare on Elm Street is a franchise.
Well, John Carpenter's like
I know it's like
Thing.
The Thing. The Mist. No, the Mist wasn't him.
No, that's what's the name that did Terminator and Avatar. I know that's not all one universe. But like I guess you could say Aliens vs Predator and consider all the Aliens movies and the Predator movies, but I probably wouldn't. Yeah. I'll probably either say Aliens or Predator, even though they do have a crossover movie and they do exist in the same universe.
Apparently, yeah.
Technically, they exist within Marvel.
Nah, universe. They
do. I know. Yeah, Predator 2.
They do. They exist in the same joint. So yeah. So we know that there are some obvious ones. Your Harry Potters. Your obviously your MCU. Like we know that there's some James Bond. Like we know that there are some heavy hitters that are out there. I'm positive there are going to be some obscure ones that people maybe didn't think of or whatever. But again, put your top 10 together. We love to see it. If you've ever seen us do a top 10, you know that the way it works is we basically just assign points. So whatever Sin's top 10 is his. Like we're not gonna fight about it. We don't argue about it. I don't care what his list looks like, unless he has something on that I'm like, dog, that's not a franchise. Then we're you know what I mean. Then we're talking about something different. And Sin likes to do so. Sin likes to pull up like he like to do stuff. You know what I'm saying, like that. So but like other than that, like we're not fighting about what people's choices are. Their choices are what their choices are, and then we assign points based on what franchises make it onto multiple lists. We use that to create the top 10 list, and then we fight about whatever ones are tied. That's how it works. So it's gonna be a good time, but then we are going to take the top 3 from that and use that. Get out, Band Hammer.
No, I think he was saying it about me.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. We know that already. No,
I actually don't believe that. I actually don't believe that. I know it's one of his favorite joints, but I don't think it's his number one. I think he's gonna throw you a curve. But we'll see. I'm very interested to see that. We are gonna take the top 3 from that, and we are gonna use that to start our top 3. We are going to do a second top movie franchises of all time at Ocean City Comic-Con, where we are doing a panel. All of the admins from the Low Sense Movie Club will be there at the panel. And in that case, we just let people have it's a free-for-all. Like people could just take a franchise and put it anywhere on the list. I don't even know how. I don't even think we can really do a tier thing for this. I think we just need a whiteboard.
And
just
right
there.
There's no way we're going to be able to pull images for all of those, right?
Yeah.
But we'll discuss how we're going to do that. We have to figure that out ourselves.
Movies, Marcus.
But yeah, we're gonna be erasing stuff and putting stuff in and whatever, and it's gonna be challenges and rock paper scissors and people banding each other, and
we're
gonna have vetoes and all of that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a really good time. But look forward to that next week. Saying you're starting a new show for Thriller Park this Thursday, right?
Yes, we are down to our last pick for this round, which is Marcus's pick, and which is Summertime Rendering.
Now I've heard that Marcus's picks have been pretty weak.
Yeah, he's got a track record, he's got a track record, but I think this one
I'm not saying who said it. I'm just saying that's what I heard.
I mean, but this one's finna be good. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've been excited since I first heard about this show, and it's something very new. Like it's this year or end of last year where it ended, so it's something relatively fresh. I know myself, I haven't seen it. I know Jokes hasn't seen it. I know Gabby hasn't seen it. I think the only two is just Noah and Marcus that have seen this. So it's going to be new for all of us. Like I said, a lot of hype around it. I heard it's really, really good. So I'm excited. It's 25 episodes, so it looks like we're going to be doing 5 a week, just so y'all know. But I'm hyped and excited for it. So I can't wait. So yes, jump in. Brand new. You can jump in right to start with us and just Let's go down this road together. So see what we think about it.
Dig it. I know y'all had some catching up to do on wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we on that?
So we had what was it? Crown Jewel that went down. We did our prediction show for that.
If we could have watched that live together, jokes, you'd have so many clipping moments. I'm gonna let you know. The second she walked down that ramp, bro. And I'll give you credit when we were doing Extra Life. You pointed out, you made a comment like, "Yo, this match is fire." The women's match. You were not lying. You were not lying. Like that was match of the night for me. All 5 of them ladies put on a show, even though Riyadh wasn't receiving it as well as they should had. But it's Riyadh. That's what it is. Like, but no, they put on a fire show. Yeah, but continue. Go ahead.
But yeah, so we got. I know we got caught up on that. As far as our next prediction shows, I believe we are looking at right now Survivor Series War Games, which will come up at the end of the month, and AEW.
Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, I think AEW also has one at the end of the month as well. Full gear. So we're going to be pulling double duty. That may be another Saturday, Sunday back-to-back one, if I'm not mistaken. I highly doubt they've fallen on the same day. That would be crazy if they've actually done that, but I know they did.
Let me look.
But that would be our next prediction shows that we'll have coming next for.
Okay, I dig it. All right, y'all. So we are now that Extra Life is behind us. We have Movie Club next week. We are gearing up for Ocean City Comic-Con, which is December 9th. So I highly recommend coming out. It's a one-day con. Awesome. It's one day now. Highly recommend coming out, spending some time, spending the day out. It's a great con. We're gonna have a great time. Our panels are always packed there, and we always have a ridiculous time. So highly looking forward to that. And to seeing some new faces and some of the old faces that are always there. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a really good time. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that and gearing up for that, again over the next coming weeks. And then we'll be figuring out what we're doing for Popeyes and Pajamas for the end of the year. We'll work that out as we prep ourselves to go into MagFest, like 3rd week of January. And then we'll discuss what we're doing about Katsucon, if anything.
Right.
I think that's it. Gentlemen, it's been a long show. It's been a super long show, and we already spent a lot of time streaming over the weekend, so we're over our limit. I want to thank everybody for hanging out. I want to thank everybody again for donating, for sharing, for everything they did over the weekend. We got to pay the piper, so y'all make sure you're following my Instagram. You're gonna miss it. You won't miss. I mean, it'll be there, but make sure you follow my Instagram. Right. Got to pay the piper. So again, thank y'all. Hey, look, it's not too late to donate if you get paid this coming week instead of last week or whatever, and you still want to. You can absolutely still go in and donate. You can still share the link. That link and those donations are alive and available. They can be accepted up through the end of the year. So it is not too late to make Sin's hair purple or get the Superman logo cut in the side of his head. It's just not too late. I just want you to know that. I feel like you should know.
Can't do the purple, but yes, we'll get the S in the side of the head. Yes.
Right,
and whatever. Either way, we hit them goals. I'm drinking blue cheese soda, and my hair is going to be completely different with a Superman logo on the side of it. So,
I would love for that to be a thing in person at Ocean City. Like you don't have to do it. You got to make it happen at least a week before then, so he can get the fresh cut, show up to Ocean City, basically cosplaying the Superman with the jump. You know what I'm saying, with the thing in the side of the head, because that'll be
cosplaying Soups. Oof, that's asking way too much.
Just saying, it's for the kids. Anyway, y'all, it's been real. I appreciate it. We're going to get out of here. You all have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful rest of the week. We'll see y'all next week. We're out. Toodles and loose.
snacks.